welcome to another edition of the ShellBee Report, and today we're going to be discussing an article that happened last week. It came out last week in the New Yorker, where Kobe Bryant had a kind of like expose discussing his career and kind of like some of the relevant topics of the day. Out of that piece, some excerpts came out before it, and everyone's been talking about at least one particular excerpt that came out during the article.
So the article came out already, or it's coming?
The article already came out last week now, so like it's done. But at the time, there was excerpts that trickled out. Then the article came out. Then came all the discussion around it and the hoopla about Kobe Bryant's comments about Trayvon Martin, and I think I guess that's in the broader sense, but also specifically about his comments about, I guess, as an athlete and how he reacts to situations like that, compared to say how the Miami Heat reacted to it and some of the other players around the league. So it's an interesting discussion, interesting take on what went down. Let me just read what you had to say so we're all on the same page here. So I'm just reading here the comments. So this is the one the excerpts came out of the New Yorker feature. There's a bigger issue in terms of being an African American athlete and the box people try to put you in because of it, he told me. And it's always a struggle to step outside of that. When I brought up LeBron James posting online photo of the Heat players dressed in hoodies with their heads bowed in solidarity with Trayvon Martin as a political expression, Bryant seemed nonplussed. I won't react to something just because I'm supposed to, because I'm an African American, he said. That argument doesn't make any sense to me. So we want to advance as a society and as a culture, but say if something happens to an African American, we immediately come to his defense. Yet you want to talk about how far we progress as a society. Well, if we're progress as a society, then you don't jump to somebody's defense just because they're African American. You sit and you listen to the facts, just like you would in any other situation, right? So I won't assert myself. I'll get into the next part of it, which refers to some comments that Jim Brown had made about a month ago on the Arsenio Hall show. We'll get into that possibly if we have a chance. However, that's kind of like the statement he had to say about it. To give a little more of a follow-up, he did come back and try, I guess, kind of clarify his position, because in this case he was saying that's what he thought then. I guess let's put it this way. He tweeted about it, had a discussion about it this weekend, 45-minute discussion on Twitter, on his Twitter page, to discuss more of his position. He wasn't backing away from the position, but trying to explain it a bit more. Also, too, the funny thing about it is, I think I know where this conversation is going to go. I think both of us are kind of looking at it with our kind of like our Spockian eyebrow for different reasons, I think, in some strange way. But I think the thing about it's interesting is that he, you, and I, as far as the result happened with the trial, we're all on the same page. I think it's a perception of what he thought in this case, I guess his role or how he should be reacted to a particular situation like this. I guess we find is interesting fodder, let's put it that way. So I've said enough. I'll come after with my thoughts about it. Let's hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I mean, from one perspective, I do agree with him. Like, I don't think that you have to jump on a bandwagon just because someone is black, that, okay, they've been done wrong, so we have to, like, be behind them. Because there are people who share the same color skin who are obviously in the wrong.
Well, I think that lays out, I think that dynamic happens for any particular group in society.
Right.
Like, you can see that in this case, it could be gay, it could be women, it could be folks of different races, in this case, Latino, whatever.
Yes, but I don't ever hear any other member of a community say they don't jump on a bandwagon. They're not going to support the LGBT person who's been done wrong or supposedly has been done wrong, or the Asian person who's been done wrong. Like, you don't hear people say that in mainstream. They might be talking about it to each other in the quiet of their own homes, but they're never going to go on television. They're never going to go in the New York Times Post, whatever it was, and say that. The New Yorker, and say that. Like, I have a hard time with Kobe Bryant. I'm not a fan of Kobe Bryant, so I'll put that out there right now. But I have a hard time with him and with celebrities who are like him, who sometimes it feels like they forgot that they are black people and that black people go through a particular type of issues when it comes to race and being done wrong by the justice system and all of that. And it's not a case of jumping on a bandwagon, but I think it's a case of, for me anyhow, why I took offense to what he said is that celebrities have such a great platform to, highlight social injustice and get people on board with them when something negative happens. And in the Trayvon Martin case, I mean, we talked about this just before we started taping. Like, the reason why there were so many people on the so-called bandwagon was because the police weren't doing anything. They weren't investigating what was happening. You needed that pressure from the community in order for someone to stand up and do something and look into the case. So it wasn't a case of who was right and who was wrong. It was a case of, we need to find out what happened, or people need to find out what happened. And I likened it to the situation with Jay-Z and Barney's when they were racially profiling people, young black people who were going and spending money on like luxury products. And Jay-Z had a partnership with Barney's, and Jay-Z refused to say anything. I mean, wrong is wrong is wrong.
Well, I will say this part. I would say for the Jay-Z example that there's much more an issue to me as far as that, because you're directly involved with the partnership. And I think in that sense, I think it's like you're doing to speak out on it in some way or some fashion. It's one thing if you're on the outside and you have no opinion or you don't want to state your opinion. Right. But when you directly got your hands in the cookie jar, I think you need to say something.
But then if you're not a part of it, then and you don't want to say anything, don't then say something against somebody who did that, because didn't he speak out against LeBron and the Heat players with the hoodies or make comments about it?
Let me unpack this in a few ways. One, I agree with you and with him. I don't think necessarily you need to jump on everything to say, hey, because I'm black, I need to discuss every single thing that happens to a black person that might be wronged or aggrieved or whatever the case may be. And that goes the same with anybody else, women and so on and so forth, whatever group. So I agree with on that standpoint. The part that I keep on kind of I just don't get is a few things. Is that he refers to the facts, right? And I'm like, okay, the facts of the case. One of the problems with the case was, based on the facts that we had known, which at least basic facts was, young man walking home with no gun ends up dead. Now, what happened in between that time, from the time he was walking back home and ending up dead, we don't know. But the problem was no one was willing to find out or interested in finding out until pressure came from different groups in different areas. And the second part about was that kind of troubled me is that, not troubled me, but I guess kind of his reaction was automatically assuming that this was a specifically just black people or African Americans, as he stated, issue in this case. The last time I checked while I was watching people, I saw brown people, I saw white people, I saw black people, I saw people, people of all sorts of different persuasions, colors, gender, all sorts, protesting this issue. This wasn't just something that was just like, a few people down the street here putting up picket signs and stuff like that, or saying, we've been done wrong. This thing was going nationally, even getting to some worldwide audience as well too, about what was going on. And to me, something would say, like, if something in your mind doesn't say, like, okay, in a country where where you're supposed to have, be it this country, Canada, or the United States, a lot of democratic countries where you see, if you have justice and you think justice should be done right, whatever the case may be, a dead body on the ground with no one having an explanation or saying that someone just taking someone's word for it, that would be a little disconcerting to me. I mean, honestly, and the thing about it too is, if you even strip away the black-white issue of it, and say, everyone wants to say flip the roles, which is the obvious one. But say say you didn't even flip the roles. Say if it was just gender. Say it was a 17-year-old girl that was laying dead. Right. You think anybody in their right mind would say, like, oh, we just washed our hands, just accept the person that shot her? There's no way. Be it black, brown, or otherwise. A young 17-year-old girl is left dead in the street from some guy that's about twice her age. I
think one of the big problems, though, is that a lot of celebrities, because they live in a different world than the rest of us do, they believe this thing about colorblind societies and I'm not jumping on a bandwagon, but black people or whatever.
I'm not going to try to get and play like psychologist and stuff like that, but I think
I don't think that's playing psychologist. No,
my point is this. I think with Kobe, is an interesting example because obviously his background compared to some of the guys in the Heat team is a different background.
Well, I'm not disagreeing.
I'm not saying that's wrong, right, otherwise, but he comes from a different perspective.
But it's not even Kobe. You even have people like I mentioned Jay-Z earlier. I think that is the same kind of mindset. Money sometimes makes color invisible when you are when you're loved by the mainstream. There is that too. I mean, it's the old classic Michael Jordan line. Hey, Republicans buy shoes too in this case, right? And Kobe was a black guy when supposedly he raped that young white woman. So he was a black guy then.
But the thing is with Kobe's comments is that the dates don't even make sense when you talk about the facts. Okay, I have here key date. Okay, Trayvon Martin shot on February 26, 2012. Zimmerman was he then had their photo on March 23rd before a basketball game. Mm-hmm. So how much weeks is that now? We're looking at about 4 to 5 weeks of no action done by the Stanford police.
Yeah, at that point, wanting to find out more what happened.
Okay, so I'm wondering what facts he would need to know 4 weeks later after almost the entire country is talking about this case. On April 11th, finally, an arrest is then given to Zimmerman at that point now, which is like almost 2 months later at that point. So I'm just sitting to myself like, okay, if you want to find out what the facts are, you first got to actually have an investigation that's done with a trial to find out what exactly happened.
Right. So or at least not even a trial, at least an investigation where the police are trying to get the facts together. Yeah, you can't just say, well, there's no facts, therefore I am not going to demand facts.
Well, I think it's just taking one person's word. It's like,
that doesn't make any sense.
Can't let me self-defense. I shot him. Okay,
well, those are the facts. Let's go about our way. It makes no sense. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, in this particular case, in this particular context, Kobe can have a stadium full of seats. Like, he can just sit down at every seat in the Staples Center and be quiet. Because, like, what he is saying makes no sense.
Well, right, from the standpoint of facts in this case here, like, I mean, people, and the thing about it, too, was, it wasn't people were pushing it as he made a judgment saying that people were assuming in this case that they were going for a guilty plea or not. Folks were just trying to get someone to get this to trial. This wasn't even something to state what was guilty or not.
Right.
It was just trying to put pressure on, in this case, the state, the city, in this case, actually get some type of justice, at least the wheels of justice started.
Right.
This wasn't even stating in this case, like, they're stating in this case someone was guilty or innocent as the way he positions it. Mm-hmm. So I'm just like,
I mean, in his defense, yes, people were already coming out saying that Zimmerman was guilty.
Fair enough.
And I mean, I understand from that perspective. Maybe he wouldn't have come out and said Zimmerman is guilty.
But the specific movement that was happening was not directly on trying to go to the pit.
It was trying to get information.
It was trying to get the wheels of justice moving to get a potential trial. That was what the real issue was. What people were trying to push toward. Now, true, people have their thoughts. Hey, everyone has their thoughts. Sit in the bar in this case or whatever about anything. There's going to be yay, nay, or whatever the case would be. But what was happening then with what the Heat were talking about and others. I think, and I think also too, I think Dwayne Wade came back and responded over the weekend, saying obviously he disagreed with the comments, and he made a couple of points. He said, why are you assuming in this case that a black issue is the only reason why, A, I'm doing it, that myself and the team were doing it, B, even if it was in this case, I can relate to it in this case. I was coming from Southside Chicago. Well, don't forget, all the guys on the team in this case didn't come from, in this case, poor neighborhood. Shane Batty's on the team, and I don't think last time I checked.
No, but I think that
I think you feel something's unjust.
Yeah, and I think that you can relate to it. Like, I assume that the majority of people who are on the team are black men.
Yeah,
and you can relate to it because you're thinking that I could be walking down the street and someone could come after me just because I am in a black skin. Somebody could come after me, so I could understand why there would be more of a connection.
Right. And the third aspect of it is the local. I mean, that was his team. That was the kid's team in this case, right? So, I mean, from that standpoint, and we saw it a year before in this case when the immigration issues happened in Arizona, where the Phoenix Suns, and I think even the organization kind of pushed back, so like, we don't really care for what this law is going to be about. Yeah. Steve Nash and others did the same thing, where it was a very local issue and put their face out there and say, yo, we're not down with this. Now, true, I'm always one to subscribe. I don't think everyone has to speak on everything. No. If it's in your spirit to do so, great. If it's not, so be it. But I think in this case, this was really just an unforced error by Kobe. It didn't really need to be because, as I said before, the end result, he still agreed with everyone here is discussing it. That in this case, justice, he was done wrong in this case.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to a larger issue. Like, I think you were going to talk about what Bill Russell had to say.
Oh, no, Jim Brown.
Jim Brown had to say about, I think that a lot of today's celebrities and maybe athletes as well are, they'll get behind a cause if it deals with their own pockets. They're not really about social justice and all of that, which, I mean, I guess it's the world that we live in today, so it is what it is. But they have such a great platform that if they were to stand up against something, they could really get a lot of people, a lot of momentum and movements to get things changed, to get things done. But unfortunately, it seems to me that a lot of them are worried about themselves and don't really think about.
I mean, they're athletes. Let's recall a spade.
Yeah, but back in the day, come on.
Well, yeah, I know. I understand. In this case here, this comes back, where it's like, when you're in a position of desperation, I think people end up finding strength in places they didn't expect to. Not all of them. Some people are just born like that. Mm-hmm. But and you can have those type of leaders. Is that the same in this case today? I mean, you see it in different areas. I said before, with the national situation, the immigration and stuff like that.
Yeah, you see it, but none the same. And I mean, it's a different world that we live in today, right?
True.
We're not dealing with the same kinds of issues that maybe they
it's
were
more
dealing
nuanced
with in the 1960s
It's not so black and
70s.
white.
Exactly.
Right.
But I mean, to me, I just think it's.
Well,
they have the opportunity to really get behind something. It doesn't necessarily have to be anything controversial. They can just get behind something positive.
Yeah, true. I don't want to paint them all with a brush like that.
I'm not saying all of them. I say a lot of them. I didn't say all of them.
Well, I think it comes up and it rears its heads in certain times where you see people actually make a stand about something. That, for example, about a decade ago, there's I think the Confederate flag was getting played in South Carolina, and in a tennis tournament, and I think the Williams sisters decided not to play that tournament because the Confederate flag was on the state capitol building or something like that. I can't remember what it was. There's a scenario there. Mentioned the immigration one. There's other ones. I
understand your point, and I'm not arguing the point just to argue it. Like I understand that not everybody's going to feel the need to have like a pet project or something that they're passionate about supporting. I get that. I really do. But I think that it's such a disservice done to our society, communities, when people who don't. And like, I'm not saying that you have to or they have to stand behind every and anything, but if you don't stand for something, you're gonna fall for anything. Like, some of these guys are known, and some of these celebrities in general, male and female, are only known for like how much money they spend or what kind of car they have or how many children they have by how many different women. And you have such a great opportunity to do something positive. You've been blessed with a talent or like some kind of physical skill, and you don't use it for anything positive. That is what is annoying to me.
Yeah, and I think it's a whole bigger discussion about that. I mean, we're already way over time, and I think it's a generational issue a little bit. I think as well too.
We get comfortable, and a lot of people, and I understand why. Like, a lot of people think about themselves. Maybe they've come from harder situations, or they don't want to rock the boat, or they're happy about their life. They just want to keep the status quo. It's working for them.
Well, don't forget too, they also have more to lose too.
Yeah,
and that's the difference in this case.
But they would lose it anyhow.
Well,
you see, because but seriously though, like, you talk about injustice, right? So Kobe was accused of rape how many years ago? Right. And a lot of 10 years ago or so, a lot of people assumed that he was guilty because he's a big black guy and whatever. Facts came out. I guess the state couldn't prove its case because
it fell apart in this case.
It fell apart because of whatever
indiscretions.
That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, that happened.
It fell apart, and it's one of those things that if it hadn't fallen apart, and Kobe had been convicted for a crime that he either did or did not commit, he would have ended up losing everything anyhow.
Yeah,
because the justice system does not always work fairly for people who look like him.
True, but
so if he were to stand up against that and say, you know what, we need to work on the justice system, not just because I have been affected by it, but because we know that brown people and black people are treated unfairly in the justice system, there would be less for him to lose, or for, if he were to have sons, for them to lose, for his teammates to lose, because he would be, supporting something positive that affects a lot of people in his community. But there's no need for him to stand up for it, because he's in the clear now. He hasn't been accused of anything since then.
But
so,
I don't know. I hear what you're saying, I don't know. There's parts of it I'm torn about, because I get what you're saying, but as I said before, I don't think everyone's.
No, I don't think everyone is. I think he might not be that type of person, which is fine, and that's why he should have hushed his mouth in the first place. If that's not him, if you don't have anything to say, hush your mouth.
That's why I find it intriguing, because one thing, Kobe has no filter, and he'll put his mouth on everything. That's why he's getting it now. That's true. It gives and it takes in this case, and in this case, it's he's getting it a lot. So, we'll leave it on that note. We're way over time, but we thought we really want to kind of thrash this one out.
Real editing on this one.
I'm not sure we're going to edit anything. I think this needs to be just raw.
Okay, part 1 and 2.
Possibly. We'll see. Talk to you later. Subscribe when you have a chance if you can, and place your comments down below. Love to hear from you and hear your comments about this or any other topics. Later.